The Broughton Rules of 1743 and the London Prize Ring Rules of 1838 and 1853 declared that rounds ended when one man had been thrown or fell. The fallen fighter was then given 30 seconds to recover and 8 seconds to get to the scratch line, where the expression "coming up to scratch" originated. A good number of well-known fighters cannily manipulated this rule by intentionally slipping, thus allowing more time to lapse, which could work against a heavier fighter. These days, and since the inception of the gloved era, the clinch is often employed in a similar strategy. The transition from the bare knuckle to the gloved era in mainstream professional boxing was a little more gradual than most think. From the late 1870s until 1889, prize fighting matches were a mixture of bare knuckle and gloved matches. The Marquess of Queensbury Rules had been published in 1867, which set the main standard for modern mainstream Western boxing up until the present day. Prior to these rules, boxing gloves, or mufflers as they were originally known, were only used in exhibition bouts and sparring. These gloves, originally introduced by champion boxer and trainer Jack Broughton in the 18th century, were often only skin tight and weighed little more than 2 ounces. Along with the now mandatory wearing of gloves for competition, the Queensbury Rules placed a greater emphasis on striking by technically forbidding the clinch in Rule 2. No wrestling or hugging allowed. We can see the emerging desire to separate strike-based arts away from grappling in this particular rule. This is why the tactics of infighting are regularly referred to as dirty boxing. However, this range would be difficult to remove from modern Western boxing. The transition period had given successful fighters enough time to adapt. Furthermore, the gloves were much lighter than they are today and did not have a taped thumb. These gloves, which were heavier than they had been in the previous century, were still often as light as the 4-ounce MMA competition gloves of today, allowed for a lot more dexterity in the clinch. Heavyweight champion Jack Johnson is famed for many reasons in boxing history. However, it is his clinch work that serves martial arts cross-training education so well. The time that Johnson fought in had only recently emerged from the bare-knuckle era of the London Prize Rules. Many attributes of this era carried over into the early gloved matches, and a good amount of it stayed up until the present day. Johnson was particularly adept at controlling, wrestling and striking in the clinch. Johnson made good use of the collar tie and regularly trapped opponents with his overhooks. These days the overhooks is less favoured than the underhooks in grappling sports and MMA. This is due to the fact that underhooks are an effective way to take the back position or get a takedown. They can also be a strong locking off clinching position for knee strikes, just as high-line grappling tactics often see 2 fighters wrestling to get the inside position for the collar tie or plum, which is deemed to be dominant. Midline grappling often sees a fight being waged for the double underhooks, or to get the head on the side of the single underhook. However, the overhook is far more than a submissive and inferior position to the underhook. The overhook, when employed correctly, can trap an arm and control an opponent in a different way. We only have to look at a rather infamous incident almost a century on from the heyday of Jack Johnson, when Mike Tyson caught Francois Botha in an overhook that turned into a powerful arm wrap hyperextension. Gentleman Jim Corbett, the man who beat the last world heavyweight bare-knuckle boxer and first world heavyweight gloved fighter John L. Sullivan for the title, was known for the masterful way he could smother and clinch an attack. It's interesting to note that Corbett is often admired for his progressive footwork, which is probably comparable to the great Daniel Mendoza in terms of how far ahead it seemed to be as a positional tool. Gene Tunney, the man who beat Jack Dempsey, idolised Corbett for his footwork. However, one piece of footage shows Corbett demonstrating a clinching technique on Tunney, whereby he's trapping both of Tunney's arms with one of his arms whilst punching with the free hand. This technique lends itself very well to the MMA clinch. Moving forward several decades, we see Joe Frazier's unorthodox style of modern clinch fighting shares certain characteristics with his early 20th century counterparts. His all-or-nothing hook might not be the best move for an MMA fighter due to the blatant exposure of the back when it misses, but the use of his head and hips in the clinch are comparable to a wrestler. Adding into this, Frazier's bobbing and weaving was in a class of its own. Indeed, Frazier bobbed and weaved outside of the clinch in a manner that no right-minded trainer would teach a boxer. He maintained this wrestling-style stance with his hips back and bending at the waist. However, his unique rhythm and pace caused severe problems for many of his opponents, including the great Muhammad Ali. There is plenty the infighting striker can learn from Frazier's clinch. This head movement was first popularised in modern boxing by the man Gene Tunney had deposed, the great Jack Dempsey. Dempsey quite literally wrote the book on bobbing and weaving. In the 1980s, Mike Tyson, a fighter who was heavily influenced by Dempsey, used these techniques explicitly in conjunction with slipping and the peekaboo defence taught to him by Custer Motto. Many fighters have good head movement, but few actually weave in this fashion. However, Frazier used it at all ranges. Within the context of grappling, the weave can be seen as a great way to move into a dominant position in the clinch. It can also be found in ground fighting, for example when a fighter executes a sit-out escape. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Please leave feedback to let me know your thoughts on tactile awareness, trapping and other related themes covered in this video. For more insights, reviews and diary entries as well as details on my products and services, please check out clubbchimera.com. Thank you.